want to thank you. We have a rough out here too as well. So I want to thank Mike Simmons, Bushra Amawala, Phil Andrew. Thank you all for your patience. Thanks for joining us, and thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate it. Have a great evening. You're giving me the
or glean that they were going to be candidates for that at all. Jermaine Edmonds was going to be the most notable one. And I think it's also just a credit to some other players in that linebacker room who really stepped up and played well in his place. Look at DeMarco Jackson. Look at Noah Sewell. Look at Ruben Hippolyte. And a lot of those players have dealt with injuries this season, but they were kind of plug-and-play guys. And so at that position, I think the Bears feel like they can get a guy who is suitable to play that spot for a lot cheaper price.
Cassie, I know you got the chance to talk with Ben Johnson, Ryan Poles, and Jeff King one-on-one today. What were some of your takeaways from those conversations?
Yeah, starting with Ryan Poles, it was more a lot about, honestly, just the different scenario it is coming down here, because for the first time since he has been GM of the Bears, he doesn't have a new head coach coming down here. He doesn't have a top pick coming down here. And so the Bears aren't really the talk of the combine, believe it or not. And usually, at least the last 4 years that I've been here, they've been all the talk. And so it's just a different experience coming down here and not having all the attention on you solely. And then we also spoke about trying to figure out what their window is going to be, because while he is dealing with the cap constraints, he said he wants to be flexible and also be able to sustain success, especially while you have Caleb Williams, who is currently on a rookie contract, knowing that you're going to have to pay him a lot of money in a couple of years. And so they're trying to, do both things at the same time. And a lot of it could be cutting guys. It could be restructuring some contracts, which is a possibility. He said you can't get carried away with the restructuring because you're going to have to pay these players eventually. And then it ties you up later on when you could still be in your window. So he's dealing with a lot of that stuff right now, alongside with welcoming in a new assistant GM and Jeff King. We'll talk to him in a little bit. But back to Ben Johnson, he is excited, just like his quarterback, Caleb Williams, to get back in the building and get back to work. And he took a little vacation, and now he's like, all right, let's get everyone back in the building. And they're not starting from scratch with this coaching staff. He promotes Press Taylor to offensive coordinator. And when he sits down with Caleb Williams, they're going to go over a lot of last season, but they're also going to take the next step in his offense and what is considered a very complex system. And so he's excited to get back to work with him. Also talked a little bit about Tyson Bagent, who we all know is the Bears are getting calls about. People want to trade for Tyson Bagent because it is a down market this year when it comes to quarterbacks. And as Ben Johnson said, he sees Tyson Bagent as one of the top 32 QBs in the NFL, which is quite a story for someone who is an undrafted free agent out of Division II Shepherd University to now be potentially, drawing in interest from other teams to be a starter. And in return, the Bears could flip that into maybe a day 2 pick. And so that's where we're at right now when it comes to that. And speaking of Tyson Bagent, the guy who scouted Tyson Bagent is now the Bears assistant GM, Jeff King, and we got a chance to talk to him one-on-one today. Here's that conversation. Jeff King, congratulations on the promotion. It's not a new place for you, though, which is the really cool part of this story. What does it mean to be in Chicago for 12 years now and to be assistant general manager?
Yeah, it's been a cool journey. I honestly love the fact that I came up from the bottom. You see how the sausage is made in a lot of ways. And then now to be in the position that I'm in to help the team build a consistent winner is super gratifying, but I'm super lucky to be in one place for 12 years and such a special place as being like in the Chicago Bears.
When we were talking to Ryan Poles about you yesterday, he said you're probably the assistant GM with the most recent experience actually playing the game, which...
Yeah, I'd have to rack my brain, but I think you're seeing it a little bit more and more. John Lynch having a lot of success. Obviously on the coaching side, Vrabel and some of these other guys have had a ton of success. So I think it helps. I think it gives you a different perspective. It gives you that element of knowing what the locker room values, how they see things. The locker room is way smarter than you think they are. They pay attention to a lot of things that, you may gloss over at level 2 of the building. So you get that perspective, and I was lucky to have that.
All right, can you give us an example of that? Because a lot of people say, oh, that's above my pay grade, but they're definitely taking notice.
Well, I think, when you pay guys, when you draft guys and you see the character, or you see, the guys coming in and what you value as an evaluator, then that speaks to the locker room. That speaks to the character of the guys that you value. So they're always watching. They're always seeing how you go about your business more than you think they do.
I remember talking to someone who used to work. He was a scout for the Bears previously, and he said, you don't really see it that often where a former player comes in and is willing to intern, to pick up scouts from the airport and drive them to the practice facility. What drove you in those early days to want to make that transition and do that?
Yeah, I think part of it is you know that stigma is there of being a former player, but too, like, I knew, like, I didn't want to skip any steps. Like, you go into any business line of work, like, you know, you're gonna have to pay your dues, you know, there's things that you need to learn, and that's just kind of how I approached it. You know, it's the same way as I was a player. You can't gloss over the fundamentals. So you know, I just jumped 2 feet in, and you know, Liz was teasing, like, you know, making $150 a week as an intern, and but you know, I learned a lot. It's definitely been a process of, you know, letting guys know that, like, hey, like, you can do this. Even the other former players, you know, to get their foot in the door, to pay the price, and then you can get your feet wet and show what you really know as a player.
What was this past season like for you, seeing all the work? It's not just over the last 4 years, it's over the last handful of years to finally culminate in the divisional. Yeah,
I mean, for all of us, I'm sure for you guys as well, like, excited to see some of those pains that we went through pay off. You know, to have Ben and his staff, the amazing job that they did, to see them take players and develop them, that's what it's all about, right? Like, that's what we're here for. So, you know, we're excited to take the next step. We know that we're going to have to do it again, but we're excited about that challenge and ready for it.
Talk about players, taking them and developing them. You were the guy who scouted Tyson Bagent. What's it like now to get calls about people wanting Tyson Bagent and the arc that he's had? You know, you hear about it. It's cliche. Like, you talk about the football character. Like, Tyson's football character is, like, unbelievable. You guys work with him, you know, like, smart, tough, great teammate. And then, you know, the football stuff just comes natural to him. He's played, you know, quarterback his whole life, state championship in high school, super successful in college, Harlan Hill winner. So that part was kind of easy, but the person is what's, like, special about Tyson, and you know, he's going to do great things. It's a different draft combine for the Bears this year. It's not the new head coach. It's not the top 10 pick. You're picking 25th. You have cap constraints. What's the fun challenge about all the different aspects that go into this year and creating the roster? That's what we get into it for, right? Like, putting the different pieces together, shuffling around, restocking the deck. You know, that's the fun part. You know, it takes time, it takes a lot of work, but that's what we're here to do. You know, we're going to try to put the best 53 together when we get to that point. And it starts, you know, really started last August with our guys hitting the road, but it's going to come into focus here in the next couple months. There's been some conversations about the tight end position, which we obviously know the Bears drafted Colston Loveland last year, just the importance of it and the evolution of it in offenses. As a former tight end, how do you view how important and how versatile that position has become? Well, I always joke with the guys, it's the smartest, most versatile guys on the field, right? But it does give your offense, like, a multiplicity that's hard to replicate. Like, you know, take Colston and Cole, for example. Both guys, like, they do things that not many people can do. Cole was an excellent pass blocker this year. Obviously, Colston's success in the pass game was a huge deal for us. So to have guys that can go and do multiple roles and accomplish that for Ben, who's, you know, the designer of it all, like, it gives you a lot of different variations of offense that's hard to stop. What's special about this scouting group that you have within Halas Hall? Because I asked that because I remember last year when Colston was drafted, people were like, oh, they didn't expect that name to come up in the top 10. But then Ryan said yesterday it's always best player available. And even if you're sitting at 25, that's what you guys are going to focus on. Like, how are you able to identify those guys well, do you think? We have a close-knit group as a scouting staff. You know, we have a lot of honesty. We have a lot of trust in the room. And so getting to that best player available is actually a fun process for us. Everybody has guys that they want to stamp and have a lot of passion for, which we encourage. So it's fun. It's fun to get to that point where you're setting your board and hearing the guys and their passion for players. And, you know, that's a fun process for us. Ryan Poles, I always said his relationship with Ian Cunningham. Ian was kind of like his get-back guy. Like, when he wanted to do something, he was like, maybe let's think about it this way. Already having a relationship with him, how do you feel like you guys work together? Yeah, I think it's been great. You know, coming in, like, I didn't know Ryan when he first got here, so getting to know him over the past couple years, but also learning from him and Ian's relationship too, like observing that.
And then, but still being who I am, right? Like I'm probably more, player centric in terms of a little bit more aggressive, trying to think outside the box a little bit. So I'm not going to, not be me. Ian was special in all the things that he brought to Ryan. And I'm just a little bit different as well, but still have, still be that guardrail when it needs to be.
You don't have to be roommates with him since you're already in Chicago, which
right.
I'm sure makes everybody happy.
That's
Jeff
right.
King, we appreciate your time and congratulations.
Thank you, Cassie.
You can hear my full conversation with Jeff King, Ryan Poles, Ben Johnson, everyone else that we are running into down here in Indianapolis on the Fox 32 Chicago YouTube page and, of course, on Fox Local. And we will continue to talk to everyone. I know you bumped into the show with Mike Florio. We were trying to catch him today. He said come back tomorrow because he did get Ben Johnson to talk about the Packers, which, by the way, I still love that. Like, I love it so much because we were talking earlier here. We're like, it gives us off more like college coach vibes. And I love that for the NFL. It's such a different tone that Ben Johnson has set. But it's interesting, too, because I would imagine if him and Matt LaFleur run into each other, maybe in Indy, maybe they will share some words. Who knows?
We love all the personality we are seeing from Ben Johnson here. Cassie Carlson, thanks so much for the time. And, of course, we'll talk to you tomorrow as well.
Thanks, Tina.
All right, still ahead, should the Bears trade away DJ Moore? Herb Howard of the Bigs Media joins us to discuss his one-on-one conversation with Moore. Hear from him next right here on CST. Back here on CST Daily, I'm Tina Nguyen. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Fox Chicago. Herb Howard from the Bigs Media joining us via Zoom to discuss the Bears offseason. Herb, this is one of my favorite events in the NFL, the Scouting Combine, because while you've got the elite prospects, right, showcasing their talents and all that jazz, this week is more than just clocking times and the measurements. It's where trades begin to brew and the rosters really begin to change here. We heard from Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson yesterday, and a question this offseason for the Bears: will DJ Moore remain a Bear here? Will he be suiting up for the Bears come September? I understand you got the chance to talk with him at the Super Bowl. What did you learn from your conversation with him? Give us all the details here.
Yeah, I talked to DJ about, how we felt about, some of the conversations that were going on after the playoff loss to the Rams at Soldier Field. A lot of people were saying it was his fault. He gave up on the last play. The miscommunication between he and Caleb was DJ's responsibility. I asked him how he felt about that, and he said he didn't really like it. He said it was kind of frustrating to hear it. He also then told me, I asked him point blank, do you even want to come back to Chicago? With all the talk about whether he should, whether he will, whether he won't, do you even want to come back to Chicago? And he said, I will be back in Chicago. Now, I didn't know how to take that at the time, if that was a conversation that he and Ryan Poles had, a conversation that he and Coach Johnson had. They had talked about perhaps restructuring his deal or something like that to give him the confidence that he would be back. And listening to Ryan Poles speak yesterday, it seemed a little bit more uncertain about whether or not DJ will come back. I do think that he would be a welcome addition or welcome to return back because he's a really good player. He's a really good teammate. He's a hard worker. He's a great leader in that locker room as well. But then there are the financial implications that you have to factor into this situation. And the Bears are tight against the cap right now. They have to find ways to get better while also staying within the confines of the salary cap. I asked Ryan Poles that at the end of his at his end of season press conference. I said, listen, usually you're coming into an off season where you're still trying to build the roster, set a foundation, bring in some young talent. And now you're in a different situation where you're trying to complete a roster to be a Super Bowl contender. And what is the difference about that? And he said, the biggest difference is going to be that they have more constraints now because of the salary cap, because of the investments that they have made in this team. And so I don't know what that means for DJ Moore. I would like to see DJ Moore come back again. I think he's a really, really good player. I don't know how they get better simply by removing him from the roster. Now, if you talk about a trade situation with the Max Crosby, then that could be a different situation because I do think that the Bears need more help at with their pass rush than they do at wide receiver. But just getting rid of him for the sake of saving money, I don't know how that makes the Bears better.
What do you personally think the Bears should do with Moore?
Yeah, I think, they should keep him. Now, the only scenario where I would be on board with them getting rid of DJ Moore again is if he was able to be a part of a trade that brought Max Crosby to Chicago, because you don't have to pay Max Crosby a lot of money to get him here, even after the trade. And so you're going to have to find that money somewhere. As much as I like DJ Moore, the Bears need more help at their pass rush than they do at wide receiver because they have Luther Burden, they have Rome Odunze, they have Colston Loveland. So I think they're deeper in terms of their pass catchers than they are in terms of their edge rushers. And so if that's the case, then I'm fine with it. Other than that, I think they need to find a way to maybe restructure his contract, turn some of that money into a signing bonus where it doesn't affect them against the cap quite as much, and find some creative ways to do some things to keep DJ Moore on this roster. Listen, they can always, the salary cap is what it is, but these NFL teams can always do some salary cap gymnastics to find ways to create more money.
Ryan Poles said yesterday, quote, "We want him here. We think highly of him. He is a great teammate." Although Poles did say this is the time now where we have to look at all the different scenarios to see what can allow us to put the team in the best position there. How difficult do you think it will be, though, for the Bears to find a trade partner for DJ Moore? Because, as I said, it's a hefty contract here.
It is a hefty contract. I think DJ Moore is a really good player. You look at those numbers that you just listed off, and I think they can seem underwhelming, but you got to understand you're talking about a new offensive system. You're talking about still a very young and developing quarterback, and also a situation where DJ Moore wasn't being targeted early in the season. A lot of those targets were going towards Rome Odunze and others. Rome Odunze goes down, DJ Moore's targets go up, and all of a sudden you start to see his production, his touchdowns, his big plays, his dynamic playmaking ability. And so I think a lot of teams will factor in that. They look at his production over the course of his career and how he has performed throughout his career in the National Football League, while doing so with a large amount of instability at quarterback going back to his days in Carolina with the Panthers. And so I think people understand how good of a player DJ is and how he can come in and help an offense. The contract is what it is. He earned that money. Somebody's going to pay it to him, whether it's in Chicago or somewhere else. We'll figure that out. But I think this is the time where you start to see those conversations kind of take shape.
Workouts begin tomorrow, right? This is a draft class that's deep when it comes to the D-line, D-tackles. Give me a player or two that you are monitoring this week.
Well, you look at the position groups is what I prefer to do, because where do the Bears have the greatest needs right now? And again, it's going to be about the edge rusher. You talked to Ryan Poles yesterday, and he says, listen, we think that the edge rush position is deeper than the interior defensive tackle position. That leads me to believe if they're going to target one early, it's going to be the interior guys, because they don't believe in the depth of that particular position group. Mm-hmm. While they might like the depth of the edge rushers a little bit later, where they maybe feel like they can address that in the second or third round going forward. Got to figure out what's going to happen with these compensatory picks. If you talk about 2 third-round picks, that could greatly alter the draft plan in terms of what the Bears want to do. And I'm talking about the fact that Ian Cunningham is now the general manager with the Atlanta Falcons. The NFL has said the Bears will not get compensatory picks, although the Rooney Rule says that they should. Lots to still be worked out there. Ryan Post says they have submitted their appeals to the National Football League. They've talked to the right people, and he's going to wait and see what happens. But in terms of the position groups, you look at left tackle, and I don't know how the Bears reinvest there again, right? They spent the second-round pick on Ozzie Trapillo last year. The prior year, they spent the third-round pick on Karan Amagaji. And so I don't know how many times they're going to dip into that well in the top 2 or 3 rounds to say, we're going to try to figure out this left tackle thing again. Because then what do you do with the 2 young players that you've drafted there the last 2 years? Obviously, Ozzie Trapillo is going to be out for quite some time with the injury that he sustained. You don't know what you have in Karan Amagaji because we just haven't had an opportunity to really see him play for any extended amount of time. I don't know what the Bears are looking to do at their left tackle position. I really, really don't. If they invest there in one of those top 2 or 3 rounds, I'd kind of be surprised, but they do have a need there. So we just have to kind of see how it plays out. Once we get through free agency, we'll have a better idea of what exactly or who exactly they may be targeting in the draft.
Yeah, and don't forget, by the way, Braxton Jones, but it seems like they have moved on there from Braxton Jones himself. All right,
Yeah.
Herb Howard, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, back here on CST Daily, make sure to tune in on Friday. It is 3rd-ranked Michigan in a battle against 10th-ranked Illinois in a very special post-game show with former Illini legend Kendall Gill joining us in studio to break it all down. We've also got a conversation with the freshman Keaton Wagler, so be sure to tune in. All right, that will do it for us here on CST. For Cassie Carlson, Herb Howard, I am Tina Nguyen. We'll see you back here tomorrow for Chicago Sports Tonight Daily. Have a great night.